False start, the most common offensive penalty. False start is the most frequently called penalty in the NFL, and it occurs when an offensive player moves before the ball is snapped. The penalty results in a 5-yard loss and the down is replayed. False starts happen when offensive linemen, running backs, or receivers move in a way that simulates the start of a play before the quarterback begins his cadence or before the ball is actually snapped. The rule exists to prevent the offense from gaining an unfair advantage by getting a head start on the play. Offensive linemen are particularly susceptible to false starts because they are in a three-point stance, and any movement forward or backward can be interpreted as the beginning of their blocking assignment. The penalty is designed to maintain the integrity of the snap count and ensure that both teams have an equal opportunity to react to the start of the play. False starts are automatic penalties that cannot be declined by the defense, and they are among the most frustrating penalties for offensive coordinators because they put the offense in a disadvantageous down and distance situation. The penalty is called immediately when it occurs, and play is blown dead before it begins, which means no other action can take place on the play. Hard counts by quarterbacks often cause false starts when offensive players anticipate the snap count incorrectly, and crowd noise can also contribute to false starts when players cannot hear the quarterback's cadence clearly. Holding, the penalty that kills drives. Holding is one of the most impactful penalties in football because it can occur on both offense and defense with different consequences. Offensive holding results in a 10-yard penalty and the down is replayed, while defensive holding results in a 5-yard penalty and an automatic first down for the offense. Offensive holding occurs when a player grabs, hooks, or tackles a defender in a way that restricts their movement and prevents them from pursuing the ball carrier or rushing the quarterback. The penalty is subjective and requires the referee to determine whether the contact was incidental or intentional, which makes it one of the most controversial calls in football. Holding can be called on any offensive player, but it is most commonly called on offensive linemen who are trying to protect the quarterback or create running lanes. The penalty is particularly devastating when it occurs on big plays, as it can negate long touchdowns or significant gains and put the offense in a difficult down and distance situation. Defensive holding occurs when a defensive player grabs or restricts a receiver's movement beyond the 5-yard contact zone, and it results in an automatic first down regardless of the down and distance. The automatic first down aspect of defensive holding makes it one of the most beneficial penalties for the offense, as it can extend drives and give teams new opportunities to score. Pass interference, the most controversial penalty. Pass interference is arguably the most controversial and impactful penalty in the NFL because it can result in massive yardage gains or losses depending on which team commits the foul. Offensive pass interference results in a 10-yard penalty and loss of down, while defensive pass interference is a spot foul that gives the offense the ball at the spot where the interference occurred. The penalty occurs when a player interferes with an opponent's opportunity to catch a pass by making contact before the ball arrives, pushing, pulling, or otherwise restricting the receiver's ability to make a play on the ball. The rule is designed to ensure that both offensive and defensive players have an equal opportunity to catch the ball, but the interpretation of what constitutes interference is highly subjective and often controversial. Defensive pass interference can result in penalties of 50 yards or more if the interference occurs deep downfield, making it one of the most costly penalties in football. The penalty has been the subject of numerous rule changes and clarifications over the years, including a brief period where teams could challenge pass interference calls using instant replay. The uncatchable ball exception means that pass interference cannot be called if the pass is deemed uncatchable, but this determination is also subjective and often debated. Pass interference calls in crucial moments of games have decided playoff outcomes and championship games, making it one of the most scrutinized penalties by fans, coaches, and media. Roughing the passer. Protecting the quarterback. Roughing the passer is a 15-yard penalty with an automatic first down that is designed to protect quarterbacks from unnecessary and dangerous contact after they have released the ball. The penalty occurs when a defensive player hits the quarterback late, lands on him with their full body weight, hits him in the head or neck area, or makes contact that is deemed unnecessary or excessive. The rule has evolved significantly over the years as the NFL has placed greater emphasis on player safety, particularly for quarterbacks who are in vulnerable positions when throwing the ball. The Brady rule was implemented after Tom Brady suffered a season-ending knee injury, and it prohibits defenders from hitting quarterbacks at or below the knee when they are in a defenseless position. The Aaron Rodgers rule was created after Rodgers was injured when a defender landed on him with full body weight, and it requires defenders to avoid putting their full weight on the quarterback when tackling him. These rules have made it increasingly difficult for pass rushers to legally hit quarterbacks, and many defensive players argue that the rules have gone too far in protecting offensive players. The penalty is often controversial because the line between a legal hit and roughing the passer can be very thin, and referees must make split-second decisions about the intent and severity of the contact. The automatic first down aspect of the penalty makes it extremely costly for defenses, as it can extend drives and give offenses new opportunities to score. Offsides and encroachment. Timing violations. Offsides and encroachment are both 5-yard penalties that occur when defensive players cross the line of scrimmage before the ball is snapped, but they have different specific definitions and consequences. Offsides occurs when a defensive player is across the line of scrimmage when the ball is snapped, while encroachment occurs when a defensive player crosses the line of scrimmage and makes contact with an offensive player before the snap. Neutral zone infraction is a related penalty that occurs when a defensive player crosses the line of scrimmage and causes an offensive player to false start, and it results in a 5-yard penalty against the defense. These penalties are designed to ensure that both teams start each play from their designated positions and that neither team gains an unfair advantage by jumping early. Offsides is a live ball foul, which means that the play continues and the offense can choose to accept the penalty or decline it if the result of the play is more favorable. Encroachment and neutral zone infractions are dead ball fouls, which means that the play is blown dead immediately when the penalty occurs. Defensive players often try to time the snap count to get a jump on the offense, but this strategy can backfire if they cross the line too early. Hard counts by quarterbacks are specifically designed to draw defensive players off sides, and experienced quarterbacks are skilled at varying their cadence to catch defenders off guard. Unnecessary roughness, excessive force, and violence. Unnecessary roughness is a 15-yard penalty that covers a wide range of actions that involve excessive force, violence, or contact that goes beyond what is necessary to make a play. The penalty can be called for late hits, hits on defenseless players, hits to the head or neck area, or any contact that is deemed excessive or dangerous by the referees. The rule is designed to protect player safety and maintain the integrity of the game by preventing players from using football as an excuse to commit acts of violence. Unnecessary roughness can be called on any player at any time during the play, and it often results in heated confrontations between players and teams. The penalty is subjective and requires referees to make judgment calls about the intent and severity of the contact, which can lead to controversy and disagreement. Hits on defenseless receivers have become a particular focus of unnecessary roughness calls, as the NFL has implemented rules to protect players who are in vulnerable positions when catching passes. The penalty can also be called for actions that occur after the play is over, such as late hits on quarterbacks or hits on players who are already down. Unnecessary roughness penalties often result in ejections if the contact is deemed particularly egregious or if a player has a history of similar violations. The 15-yard penalty and automatic first down make unnecessary roughness one of the most costly penalties for defenses. Delay of game, time management failures. Delay of game is a 5-yard penalty that occurs when the offense fails to snap the ball before the play clock expires. The play clock gives teams a specific amount of time to run their next play, typically 40 seconds from the end of the previous play or 25 seconds after. Certain administrative stoppages. The penalty is designed to keep the game moving at a reasonable pace and prevent teams from using excessive time between plays to gain strategic advantages. Delay of game penalties are automatic and cannot be declined by the defense, and they result in the down being replayed with a 5-yard loss. Teams sometimes intentionally take delay of game penalties in certain situations, such as when they want to give their punter more room to operate or when they are trying to run time off the clock. The penalty can also occur on special teams plays, such as when a team takes too long to attempt a field goal or extra point. Quarterbacks and offensive coordinators must manage the play clock carefully, especially in loud stadiums where communication can be difficult. The penalty becomes more critical in close games and crucial situations where every yard matters. Some teams are notorious for having poor time management and frequently committing delay of game penalties, which can be a sign of poor preparation or communication issues. The penalty is one of the most preventable in football, as it simply requires teams to be aware of the time remaining on the play clock. Unsportsmanlike conduct, behavior, and attitude violations. Unsportsmanlike conduct is a 15-yard penalty that covers a wide range of behaviors and actions that are deemed inappropriate, disrespectful, or contrary to the spirit of the game. The penalty can be called for excessive celebrations, taunting, arguing with referees, using profane language, or any behavior that is considered unsporting. The rule is designed to maintain the integrity and professionalism of the game and ensure that players conduct themselves in a manner that reflects positively on the sport. Unsportsmanlike conduct penalties are subjective and require referees to make judgment calls about what constitutes appropriate behavior, which can lead to controversy and disagreement. The penalty can be called on players, coaches, or even team personnel, and it can occur during the play, between plays, or even during timeouts and other stoppages. Excessive celebration penalties have been particularly controversial, as the NFL has struggled to define what constitutes appropriate celebration versus excessive celebration. Taunting penalties are called when players direct disrespectful gestures or comments toward opponents, and these calls have become more frequent as the league has emphasized sportsmanship. Two unsportsmanlike conduct penalties on the same player result in an automatic ejection, which makes the penalty particularly costly for teams. The 15-yard penalty and potential for ejection make unsportsmanlike conduct one of the most impactful penalties in terms of both field position and personnel. Intentional grounding, illegal disposal of the ball. Intentional grounding is a 10-yard penalty with loss of down that occurs when a quarterback deliberately throws the ball away to avoid being sacked without a realistic chance of completion to an eligible receiver. The penalty is designed to prevent quarterbacks from avoiding sacks by simply throwing the ball away whenever they are in trouble. For intentional grounding to be called, the quarterback must be facing imminent loss of yardage due to pressure, and the pass must not have a realistic chance of being caught by an eligible receiver in the area where the ball was thrown. The penalty does not apply if the quarterback is outside the tackle box and throws the ball beyond the line of scrimmage, which gives quarterbacks some flexibility to avoid sacks legally. Intentional grounding can also be called if the quarterback throws the ball from the end zone, which results in a safety worth 2 points for the defense. The penalty is often controversial because referees must make subjective judgments about whether there was a realistic chance of completion and whether the quarterback was truly in danger of being sacked. Quarterbacks have become skilled at finding ways to avoid intentional grounding calls by throwing the ball in the general direction of receivers or by getting outside the tackle box before throwing the ball away. The loss of down aspect of the penalty makes it particularly costly, as it can end drives and force teams to punt or attempt difficult field goals. Face mask, dangerous contact with the helmet. Face mask is a 15-yard penalty that occurs when a player grabs, twists, or pulls an opponent's face mask in a way that could cause injury to the head or neck. The penalty is designed to protect players from serious injuries that can result from having their head twisted or jerked by contact with the face mask. The rule applies to any contact with the face mask that is more than incidental, and referees must determine whether the contact was intentional or simply the result of normal football action. Face mask penalties are often called during tackles when defensive players grab the face mask while trying to bring down a ball carrier, but they can also occur when offensive players grab face masks during blocking or when players are fighting for position. The 15-yard penalty and automatic first down make face mask one of the most costly penalties for defenses, especially when it occurs on third down or in crucial situations. The penalty can also be called on offensive players, which results in a 15-yard loss and replay of the down. Face mask penalties are relatively rare compared to other penalties, but they are almost always obvious when they occur and are rarely controversial. The safety aspect of the penalty makes it one of the most important rules in football, as face mask injuries can be severe and potentially career-ending. Modern helmets and face masks are designed to minimize the risk of injury, but the penalty remains an important protection for player safety. Illegal formation, structural violations. Illegal formation is a 5-yard penalty that occurs when the offense does not line up properly according to the rules governing player positioning. The offense must have at least 7 players on the line of scrimmage, with the players on the ends of the line being eligible receivers and the 5 interior players being ineligible receivers. The penalty can be called for having too few players on the line of scrimmage, having ineligible receivers in illegal positions, or having players lined up in positions that give the offense an unfair advantage. Illegal formation penalties are designed to maintain the structure and fairness of the game by ensuring that both teams follow the same rules for player positioning. The penalty is often called when teams try to use trick plays or unusual formations that violate the basic rules of football. Offensive coordinators must be careful when designing plays to ensure that their formations are legal and that all players are in eligible positions. The penalty can also occur when players are not properly set before the snap or when they are moving in ways that violate formation rules. Illegal formation is one of the more technical penalties in football, and it requires referees to have a thorough understanding of the complex rules governing player eligibility and positioning. The 5-yard penalty and replay of the down make illegal formation a relatively minor penalty compared to others, but it can still be costly in crucial situations where every yard matters. Clipping. Dangerous low blocks. Clipping is a 15-yard penalty that occurs when a player blocks an opponent from behind and below the waist, which is considered a dangerous and illegal block that can cause serious knee and ankle injuries. The penalty is designed to protect players from blocks that they cannot see coming and that can cause devastating injuries to the lower extremities. Clipping most commonly occurs during kick returns and punt returns when players are running at full speed and may not be aware of blockers approaching from behind. The penalty can also be called during regular offensive plays when linemen or other players attempt to block defenders from behind in a way that could cause injury. The 15-yard penalty makes clipping one of the more costly penalties in football, and it can significantly impact field position and scoring opportunities. The rule has evolved over the years as the NFL has placed greater emphasis on player safety, and the definition of clipping has been expanded to include more types of dangerous blocks. Referees must be able to distinguish between legal blocks and clipping, which can be challenging when players are moving at high speeds and contact occurs quickly. The penalty is relatively rare in modern football because players are better educated about legal blocking techniques and because the consequences are severe. Clipping penalties often occur during special teams plays where the action is fast and chaotic, making it difficult for players to always maintain proper blocking form and awareness of their surroundings.